Hello and welcome to today's training tip, which is about icebreakers. Okay, I'll admit it now. I have a thing about icebreakers that don't have any relevance at all to what the session is about. Sometimes they seem a bit clumsy, like that ice-breaking ship there, or long-winded. And the students can be left feeling, well, what was that all about? Sometimes they can be embarrassing. At a recent session that I attended, we were asked to tell a group 3 amazing things about ourselves. And as you can imagine, that was really difficult. I would also steer away from icebreakers that involve touching other people, especially if it's early in a course when people don't know each other well enough. And also you haven't had a chance to gauge whether or not there's kind of touchy people or not. And someone I know did an icebreaker once several years ago now in one of her sessions that involved everyone getting up to do a dance. And that session was remembered for the wrong reasons, as quite a few people said they didn't like that at all. On the other hand, well-chosen and relevant icebreakers are brilliant. A brilliant way to set up a session, to get people kind of thinking about the subject. Don't have to be necessarily directly relevant to the teaching. They can be a good way to put people at ease, and they can definitely get everyone focused on being there in the classroom or virtually being there if you're leading an online course. As part of the qualification I offer, the students have to do a short micro-teach session, and I asked them to do an icebreaker to lead into it. And some of the good ones that I've seen, I had a guy once doing a session on the geology of Cumbria, and he asked the learners to look through a box of old coins and find one with a date that meant something to them, and to share that with the group. So even though his icebreaker wasn't anything to do with, kind of layers of rock or anything like that, it was definitely to do with looking back in time. A lady I had once was doing the feeding habits of garden birds for her micro-teach, and she asked the learners to split into pairs, and she did a quiz on common garden birds. So again, just thinking generally about the subject, but not specifically about what she was teaching. A really good micro-teach I saw once was about personal self-defense, and the learners were asked to warm up by pretending to play tennis with no tennis rackets or anything, like air tennis, and the man leading the session called out backhand, forehand, etc. And these movements later became the movements for the self-defense moves that he was teaching, so that was really, really relevant. I had a lady teaching silk painting, and she just simply had a few examples of some silk paintings, which she handed round. People could look at them and feel them and see which they liked, and that led on to them being able to choose the sort of style that they wanted to do themselves. So you can see that the icebreakers don't necessarily have to contribute to the learning, just sort of get everyone focused on your subject and being there in the room. And here's one of my favourites. I use it for sessions about initial assessment of learners, to illustrate that we all make assumptions about people when we first meet them. I use it in team building sessions so that people can find out more about each other, including people's strengths. And it can be just a get to know you activity early on in a course. One caution, it does take longer than you plan it to take, however it can be really good. It's called 2 Truths and 1 Lie, and each person writes down, in no particular order, 2 truths about themselves and 1 lie. And then rather than them read out their own list, I ask them to read out each other's, and the rest of the group has to guess which is the lie and state why they think that. And we all learn a lot about each other through doing that, from the person who's written the list, but also the judgments that we make about people as well. So I join in with this one too, actually, and write my 3 up on the flip chart to give the learners a clue as to the sort of things. And these are the ones that I normally write. I write that I played tennis at school for Somerset under-16s. I write that I failed my Duke of Edinburgh Bronze Award. And I write that I used to own a burger van. So they're my three, and when everyone else has had a go, I usually just leave it hanging actually, and at some point somebody says, so which one's your lie? And I ask them to do the same to me, make that judgment about which one they think. So it can be a good fun session. So if you're struggling to find a suitable icebreaker, feel free to email me for some ideas, annie@evitalearning.co.uk. Or if you've got some favourite icebreakers or one particular favourite, it'd be great if you could share it on our Facebook group and tell us what you use it for as well. What type of subject area, I mean. So, as with many things in training, it's about doing what's appropriate for your students, for the subject you're teaching, and the situation you find yourself in. I'll be back with another training tip soon, and one day I'll share with you an icebreaker I sometimes use to introduce a feedback session, and it's worth waiting for, I can assure you of that. By the way, out of my three things there, the lie is that I played tennis for the school. I just wish I had been good enough to get selected. So I'll be back with another training tip soon, and I'll say bye for now.